What's up, everybody? I'm Clayton. This is my movie review channel, and today we're going to be looking at Oppenheimer, released 2023, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. Now, as promised, I am delivering my Oppenheimer review. It's a little later than I wanted to release it, but there's some things that came up that kind of delayed it a little bit, but here we are. So this is wrapping up our Nolan series that we've been doing, going through all of Nolan's films, reviewing them, giving my opinion, my thoughts, my review, my rating of each of his films. And now we finally come to the end, Oppenheimer. Now, I will be doing one more video in the Nolan series. The next video will be a ranking video where I'll go in and rank all 12 of Nolan's films in that video, so you guys can see exactly how I would rank his films. So that will be the last one, and then after that we will go into another series. So that I'll announce that on the next video, on the ranking video. But yes, stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Like and subscribe so you get notified when I release new content. Also, let me know you guys' thoughts on Oppenheimer and on the rest of Nolan's films. So we're going to get into my review of Oppenheimer. I'm going to try to be as spoiler free as I can here. So if you guys haven't seen it, nothing is ruined. Y'all can still watch this video, hear my thoughts, and go see the movie yourselves. So as a disclaimer, as it always needs to be said, this is just my personal opinion on this film. This is not concrete. This is not the objective standard here. This is just simply my personal opinion from my personal viewing experience with the film. All right. So if you feel differently, that's totally fine. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. All right. So let's get into Oppenheimer review, starting as always with the positives of Oppenheimer. Positives for me, look, this is a brilliantly crafted film. The writing here is fantastic. The story itself, I think, is very well structured. I think it's very well told. We get the perspectives from each of the characters in the films. We see their perspectives, which is always, I always like that in films. It's not just one person's POV. It's multiple people's, multiple characters' point of view. And you get a more rounded, fuller story when it's done that way. So we get that here in Oppenheimer. So that's something I do like with this film that Nolan did, was give us the point of view from multiple angles and from multiple characters. I also like the story that's being told about, you know, this looming threat that the people making this bomb, they don't even fully know just how dangerous it could be. They're unsure if this is going to work. There's a huge risk involved in it, and they have to kind of take a leap of faith and do it. So the story of just that high risk potential threat that you have to deal with, but also have to make a tough decision. And sometimes you got to do that in life. There are situations that I'm sure most people are going to be in at some point in their life. They got to make tough calls. They got to make tough decisions. It's not always easy, and sometimes you don't always have the time to think through all the ramifications of those decisions. But you're put on the spot, and you got to make a tough call. But whatever call you make, you got to stand behind it. Whether it's the right call, whether it's the wrong call, it was your call, your decision. If it was the wrong call, you got to own it. You got to own up to it. If it was the right call, then, you know, you're fortunate in that case. But yeah, I like that part of the story as well, that this is a huge high stakes situation. Oppenheimer and the rest of the people involved here have to make some tough decisions, have to make some tough calls, and they're gonna have to stand by whatever decision they go with, whatever the consequences are, whatever the ramifications are. They got to stick with it and they got to own it. So yeah, there's really high stakes in this film. So as far as the script, the writing of the script, I think the script is very well handled as well. I think everything here is necessary. It is a long film. It's a 3-hour runtime, but I personally don't feel that anything was wasted here, really. I think as I've thought about it more, initially I thought the film could have been condensed. Thinking about it more, I don't think it really should have been. I think everything there was purposeful, and I think everything there was doing something for the film. I do think the script was really well written, and the characters, the character writing was also good. All the characters served a purpose here. There were no wasted characters that didn't serve a purpose to the story or to the script. All the characters here served a purpose. They were doing something for the story. They had meaning and impact to the film. So I like that as well. The character writing, the script, the story, it was all clicking for me. So positive in the writing department, strong positive for me in this film. As far as the acting here, I think Robert Downey Jr., best performance of this film. He absolutely kills it in this film. As Strauss, just does a great job. I didn't even recognize him at first. Like the first, I think, scene or couple scenes, I didn't even recognize him. He was that good. So he does a fantastic job in this movie. And I think definitely one of those Oscar-worthy performances. Sometimes you can watch a movie and then walk out the theater and just know that performance that you saw is Oscar-worthy. And to me, I definitely think RDJ in this film delivers an Oscar-worthy performance. Just nailed it, man. I think Matt Damon also does a really great job here. I think this is one of Damon's best performances in quite some time. He's got some really good performances. Obviously, Good Will Hunting is up there. He's got some other ones that I can think of that are in the running for best Damon performance, but I think this one is right up there, man. He does an outstanding job in this film. So yeah, there's a couple performances here that are just fantastic, great performances. I fully buy into them. I'm invested. I believe that these people are those characters. They sell me on their performance. I'm sold in what they're doing and in their performance. So yeah, but RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., definitely kind of steals the show for me. Matt Damon is right there behind him, also delivers a great performance in the film as well. As far as the directing goes, again, everything here was just firing for me by Nolan. Nolan just continually steps his game up and finds a way to just improve in everything. The cinematography is fantastic. The editing is fantastic. The sound, the score, the visuals, all of it is just brilliantly done by Nolan. So a masterful directing performance by Nolan. Just yeah, it's what you should expect at this point by Nolan. in any Nolan film. He's all the elements of directing are just going to be absolutely top notch, and that's what we get in this one as well. So yeah, some strong positives there, primarily in the acting and the directing departments. The writing is very well written as well. But yeah, strong positives there. Moving on to my negatives with Oppenheimer. I think to me there's two main negatives that I have with this film that does bring the film down for me a little bit. One of those negatives is in the character of Oppenheimer. I did not have much knowledge of Oppenheimer coming into this film. I knew some about obviously the events of World War II, the atomic bomb, the Hiroshima events, Japan, and Truman's call on that. I know some of the information there, but Oppenheimer himself, I wasn't, I didn't have that much knowledge of. So as a character in this film, I wasn't as interested in him specifically as I was in some of the other characters. So I think because of that, I wasn't as invested in Oppenheimer as I would have liked to have been. Because I didn't really have a lot of information about him. I didn't really know much of him. And I wasn't, to me, it was really the story about the atomic bomb and Truman's decision to drop the bomb on Japan. That event is what I was really going into this film for, because that story and that historical event is a very interesting event in history. But the Oppenheimer person as a character isn't all that interesting of a person to me personally. To some of you, he may be a really interesting person, really interesting guy. I just didn't find him to be that interesting, which leads me into my second negative. And they kind of go together, but they're also kind of different as well, which is why I'm kind of separating them here. But Cillian Murphy's performance as Oppenheimer is a negative for me. And here's why it's a negative. It's not a negative because I think Cillian Murphy's a bad actor. It's a negative because I didn't buy into his performance. To me, Cillian Murphy didn't bring anything to this character that made me, as a viewer, want to follow his story. If that makes sense. Like, he didn't really add any emotional element to this character. He didn't bring any level of charisma to me that made me like so engaged with this character. He wasn't an entertaining character to me. He wasn't that gripping of a character where I'm like, oh, this character's so entertaining because of his charisma or the emotion that he brings. I just didn't get that from Cillian Murphy in this film. To me, he was a very flat character and a very flat performance for me personally. Again, it's all subjective. You may have thought he did a great job. And because I don't know much about Oppenheimer, I don't know if Cillian Murphy played Oppenheimer accurately. Maybe he did, and maybe that's why some of you like his performance in the film. But to me, he was just really flat. Like, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, I think were several levels above Cillian in their performances. I thought they brought a lot more charisma. I thought they brought a lot more charm, a lot more emotion to their performances than Cillian did. So, yeah, for your lead guy in a 3-hour runtime, he's gotta bring it, and he's got to be an interesting and entertaining character for me to really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And it just, for me, wasn't quite there. So that's really my big criticism is with Killian's performance in the film, and then also the film as a whole. The rewatch value isn't that high for me. This is not a film that I would find myself watching or being drawn back to over and over again. It's a historical documentary, and because you already know the events and you already know what happens, it kind of removes the for me it kind of removes the rewatch value to the film, because it's kind of not. I'm not saying this is a totally one and done type of film where I've seen it once, never care to see it again. I will see it again in the future, I know that, but I'm not gonna have like an urge to go back and see it again. I'm not gonna have like a huge desire to want to go back and watch Oppenheimer. So because of that, it does drop a little bit for me in my rating here. So my overall rating for Oppenheimer, I give this 3 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. Not because it doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the film. The quality here is outstanding. The writing, the directing, the acting. It's a very well made film. Very well made film. But as far as a subjective viewing experience, my experience with this film is not that high. Again, because it's a historical documentary, I already know the events. I already know what happens here. There's not a lot of rewatch value to it. The lead character, the lead performance by Cillian Murphy isn't enough for me to be entertained by, for me to be drawn back to over and over again. The character himself, Oppenheimer, is just not that interesting of a guy for me. So those are all elements that factor into my viewing experience that bring this film down for me. Again, I always rate my films based on my personal viewing experience with the film. How much did I enjoy the film? Not whether or not the film was well made, but what was my experience with the film and what was my enjoyment level with the film. So Oppenheimer, for me, I give this 3 stars. I do think it's a good film. 3 stars is a good film. I think it's good. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Not a film really that I'm going to go back to multiple viewings or have an urge to watch multiple times. So that's it, guys. Those are my thoughts on Oppenheimer. Let me know y'all's thoughts in the comment section. Have y'all seen it? Have you not seen it? I try to be spoiler free. I think I was. I don't think I spoiled anything or gave anything away. Do go check it out. I do think it's worth seeing. So yeah, stay tuned for our next video, ranking all 12 Nolan films, coming up in our next video. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, until next time, rock on.